Today I'm making a Scotch Broth mixed vegetable soup. In case you're not familiar, Scotch Broth mix is a mixture of legumes, and in the UK we buy them from many supermarkets. They come in half a kilo bags, and here you can see soup and broth mix, and I have soaked mine overnight for 12 hours, and they're made up of, you can see these are peas, but you got two different colors, yellow and green. Also they are split peas, and there are some split lentils, the orange ones, and barley. If you cannot get hold of the mixed bag where you live, you can always make your own. Just buy the ingredients individually and mix them all together, but do ensure that you keep equal ratios and proportions. And I will start with a large pot on a medium heat. You saw me pouring in a little olive oil, and I'll start frying a medium onion, which I chopped in relatively small pieces. Also similar size carrots, and this is half a red pepper. Bell pepper, in case you're wondering, and I'll mix them and I'll leave to cook gently for about 3 minutes until they become tender and release their sweetness. Next I'm adding 3 cloves of garlic. Now if you really like garlic, I would suggest that you chop it very finely using a knife like I'm doing now, and I'm just cutting it vertically this way and then it around the other way, and I'm just going across and then chopping little pieces. If you are okay with garlic but you don't want it to be too strong, you can just slice it in about 2 millimeters pieces, or equally well, if you like, you can just leave it whole, the clove, so that actually only releases a little bit of its flavor. Or if you don't like garlic, don't put any in at all, but obviously we do like it, and I'm chopping it in little pieces. As always, the quantity of each ingredient and the cooking method will be listed in the description, which is just below the title if you click on more. So I will be adding next some mushrooms, which are just sliced. You can choose any mushrooms you like. These are just normal mushrooms. At this stage I'm not looking for color, just for the mushrooms to soften and reduce slightly. 2 to 3 minutes in, you can see that the mushrooms are sweating their water and they have reduced in size, and I can start adding my aromatic herbs. So this is thyme and inigos, followed by cumin, paprika, smoked or unsmoked, entirely up to you, in your preference, and the last aromatic herb is going to be some turmeric. I should say aromatic spice, not herb. And I'll stir everything together and I'll let the spices cook gently for 1 or 2 minutes until they all become really fragrant. And this step is really important, by the way, as it will allow the spices to open up before we add any liquid. If you've got some vegetable stock, great. If not, you can do what I'm doing today. I'm going to use a vegetable stock cube. I just boiled the kettle, and I'm going to fill up my jug with hot water, and I'll mix it until it's totally dissolved. And this is the ideal time to add my Scotch Broth mix, so inigos. As I said earlier, I soaked it overnight. I recommend you do that, as it will be easier to cook, quicker, but also easier to digest. So why not? It's only 12 hours, so you just put it in cold water the night before, forget about it until you need to cook it. But obviously I have rinsed it and cleaned it under water. I can now also add my stock, inigos, followed by some plum tomatoes, which I have sliced in half, 400 grams. You can also use tinned tomatoes if you like. If you do, though, I would recommend plum tomatoes, but you can also use chopped tomatoes, and a couple of bay leaves for more flavor. The tomatoes obviously will add acidity, but also color and flavor. So I'll turn the temperature up as I want this to reach the boil, and I'm going to add a little salt and pepper, and not a lot of salt, by the way, because I did put a vegetable stock cube and they are quite salty. So you will have to regulate it. You can always add salt at the end. And I'll mix everything together, but you can see that as at the moment the temperature is on maximum, has quickly reached the boil. So I'll place the lid on, but I'll turn it down onto a simmering point just below medium, and I will leave it with the lid on for about 40 to 45 minutes until everything is cooked. The likely legume that is going to take longer is going to be the barley, but you can taste it as and when. However, in between I'll come in and I'll give it a mix to ensure that it doesn't need any more stock or water, and if it does, just top it up with a little hot water. So I'll see you in about 40 to 45 minutes. This meal is rich in fiber, proteins and slow carbohydrates. For that very reason I didn't add any potatoes, but if you want to, you can also chop in some potatoes at the same time as when you're adding the tomatoes, and it will be an even more complete meal. But as you can see, there is plenty going on there, and the barley, if you take a look, has actually grown considerably when cooking. So I personally think it's okay, but as always, individual choices. Also, I did say to you I was going to let you know how I got on with the cooking. I cooked it for a further 10 minutes because the barley wasn't ready, but it is perfect now. And also I had to add another 2/3 of a glass of hot water, and that is perfect now. If you were to use your mixed Scotch broth dry without soaking it overnight, I think you got the gist. I don't advise it, but some people do. You're likely to have to cook it for longer, but also you're likely to need more water because obviously that will be absorbing more water, but soak it overnight. Right, before we finish, I'm going to add the juice from half a lemon which I squeezed earlier, so that can go in. And do not worry, that will not make the soup taste of lemon. It will simply brighten and lift everything. And I'm now adding also a generous amount of parsley. You can also add coriander if you like, but I prefer parsley. And before I mix it and serve it, I'll add a little bit more olive oil, as this will release more flavor. And by the way, if you like this sort of food and this is the very first time you have seen one of my videos, take a look at the channel. It's absolutely packed with Italian and mostly Sicilian recipes, and it's free. It will always be free, and if you want to, subscribe, and you will be notified immediately when a new video comes out. So this is now ready, and I'll just taste some and see what it's like. Oh, it's good. The lemon at the end is spot on, and also the parsley, but you get that immediate beautiful flavor of the combined ingredients, and you can see that it's a nice and warming dish. Beautiful, really pleased. Make it and let me know how you get on. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.